we go. We're setting up the live stream to Facebook. Just a minute. All right, here we go. Okay, we should be live streaming now. Going to minimize this. Hello. All right. So today I'm going to start out with answering a question that I responded to some in the comments, but just wanted to give a couple visuals here. A question that a group member had about storing artwork, specifically oil pastel drawings, and talking about like spray fixative. Do you use that? So I'm going to share a couple thoughts about that. So first, what I said in the comments there was that, gosh, I think I indicated, I mean, this is a hard topic. So oil pastels are very easily smudged. It comes off on your hands, on your clothes, on everything that it's around. This is an oil pastel drawing, sorry, but I'm going to use this to demonstrate. So what I do if I don't want to put a spray fixative on it, which I'll explain what that is in a minute if you're not familiar, I will just store it with another piece of paper of equal size on top of it. So this is an oil pastel drawing, but the same thing goes for oil pastels. It's also, you know, can be messy, not quite as messy as chalk, but it's messy. So this is my drawing. I'm gonna lay another paper on it and even maybe use some tape, either some clear tape or masking tape, and create sort of a hinge there. So tape one edge so that you can leave that on, and then you can open it up like this, kind of like a book. So you can leave kind of a tape hinge there, not like all the way across, but like a couple of places, like just tack it in 2 or 3 places to hold the paper on there. So that's one option. If you choose to go with spray fixative, I tend to not use it very often. I mean, a lot of times if I do a chalk drawing, it's not something I'm going to keep a long time, or you know, if I do, it's just, I don't care if it gets too smudged. I have sort of an irreverence for the artwork and art material sometimes, because it's about the process for me. So but last I was aware, there was just kind of the basic spray fixative. I could actually look into this more and see if there are some better options available now, but a basic spray fixative, you know, it's a spray aerosol can. There are directions for, you know, you need to do it outside in a ventilated space. You spray it kind of at a certain distance and a certain angle, you know, in stripes to just coat the whole surface of the drawing, and let it fully dry outside. If you can leave it outside or in a room with windows open for a while, do that, because I mean, it's kind of like spray paint. It's a there are just fumes from it. So you can do that. A couple things to be aware of when using the spray fixative, and you can order it, you know, online or at an art supply store. Things to be aware of: the fumes. If there is a lot of loose dust still on the top of your drawing, then loose chalk dust, then the spray from the spray can will sort of blow that. So I've had situations where it sort of messed up my picture because it blew some of the chalk dust into an area where I didn't want it, and then it fixed it there. So be aware of that. Although on that note, you can, most spray fixatives, you can work back into it afterwards. So if there was something you really didn't like how it looked, you could layer back another color on top of it. You could continue drawing and then spray it again later. But I've been in situations where that chalk dust smeared from the force of the spray from the can, and I didn't like that. So be aware of that. As best you can beforehand, just sort of shake off your paper. You know, you can hit it on the table or on the side of the trash can. You can blow it, but sometimes that can come back in your face. Again, do that in an area over the trash can or outside. So get as much of that loose dust off as you can, so you don't have that issue where the spray fixative moves the dust. Do that. Also be aware that typically what I've found is after spraying it, even after it dries, the overall colors in the drawing are a little bit darker. So just be aware of that. I don't want you to be surprised and like, oh, Jennifer told me to do this to preserve my drawing, and now I hate the way it looks because I love these vibrant colors and now it looks darker. Just be aware it will make it a shade darker. So not significantly, but it's going to look a little different. So those are answers to that question. Also, just for storage in general, so I mentioned about layering a piece of paper on top. Also, get this out. So I'm going to explain kind of the fancy way to do this and then a cheap way to do it. So, I mean, There are all kinds of storage portfolios available for purchase online or at art supply stores. So this is one, it's sort of this translucent plastic. It's supposed to be waterproof. It has a zipper at the top. I believe I ordered a pack of like 4 of these. And they have different sizes. This is quite large because this is a painting on paper, kind of a thick cardstock paper. And I bought these for some artwork that I was selling this size so that I could just, because I wasn't going to frame it, I just handed it to the person who bought it in this, and they understood it was going to be in that, and they get to keep it. But also the ones I haven't sold, I just keep in that. And you can either store them flat, of course, in some sort of box layered on top of each other, or I have a cardboard box. I should have brought it over here, but I think it came some canvases. These canvases over here in the corner, they're large, like 3 feet tall. Those all came in one box shipped. And so that box, I have it laid horizontally, kind of underneath the table, and I cut the top off of it, and I store artwork kind of down in there. And so these type of portfolios I keep in there. If you don't want to buy a portfolio, easy way to do this, especially for smaller work, is to take a piece of cardboard or just a piece of poster board and make a portfolio. So you can fold a piece of like 24 by 22 inch poster board in half and staple or tape the 2 open edges on the side, and then leave the top open, slide your artwork in it. It protects it pretty well. You can also do it with 2 pieces of poster board. So pretend this is 2 pieces of poster board. You just lay them on top of each other, staple or tape 3 sides, and then you've got a bigger full size 24 by 20 inch portfolio. You could do that with cardboard if you want a bigger one. So any kind of sort of thicker paper or poster board or cardboard, you can make a portfolio or purchase them. I have, like a thick plastic, like faux leather portfolio. There are all kinds of levels. It depends on how deep you want to get into it. You could also keep them in a clear plastic storage container, like I said, just layered with papers in between them, blank papers in between. So that's all on storage. And so what I'm going to do now is I want to share with you some of my process that I went through. I tried to say in the title of this video, a vulnerable share from Jennifer. So I'm going to screen share with you now. And bear with me a moment. I'm going to pull up some photos I took of some artwork I did yesterday, and I'm going to talk you through my process of this. First, I want to share, I'm going to disclose a little bit about just stuff that's stressing me out right now, like nothing super deep. But my reason for sharing that is not to make it about me and not to have you focused on me or feel sorry for me. What I want you to do as you're listening to me share is to sort of think about how this relates to you. So what is your sort of equivalent stressor right now, if that makes sense? So think about, okay, this is where Jennifer's describing kind of her stressors this week. What are my stressors this week, and how could I approach the art process, the redefined process, to process my feelings in a similar way? Okay, so I'm hoping that my experience can just be an example for you and that you can relate to it. So I'm going to share my screen here, and you can see how many things I have open. So I'm gonna go to photos, though, is what I want to share with you. Okay. So yesterday, this week in general, I have been the past 2 weeks pretty stressed out regarding my daughter's schooling, because here in Louisville, Kentucky, the public school system is still on, it has been on 100% virtual schooling on the computer since last March. My daughter was in kindergarten last year when all that started. She's in 1st grade. She requires a lot of attention, help with her work. And so I've had to juggle, me staying home some. She's with her father a little bit for that virtual schooling, and then with a babysitter. We were so blessed to have the same babysitter all the first semester this year. And then I've had to switch several times because no one wants to do, 3 days a week, 7-hour a day babysitting for more than like a month, right? They get other jobs, they're in school, they're busy, whatever. So that's been a headache. And then we thought the school district was going to go back to in-person schooling 5 days a week for elementary. And at the last minute, when we were all prepared for that, they decided to just do a hybrid schedule where all students will just be there 2 days a week and do virtual learning 3 days a week. Now, I understand a lot of reasoning for this. I'm not trying to argue that we should be unsafe or anything like that with COVID precautions, but it's stressful for me because I was planning on one thing and another thing happened. And so there are a whole lot of other issues this week that I won't get into all the details of that, but just sort of perpetuated this stress and this sadness about being let down, this expectation I had, and then being let down. Because there's so many, you guys know, those who are mothers, that there's so many complex issues related to caring for kids. But even if you're not a parent, like, one stressful issue like trickles into so many different areas, and there's so many things often, so many aspects to take care of. So a lot of different things happening this week that were just adding to my stress, feeling down, not liking having to change babysitters every 2 weeks. It's a lot. So yesterday, I was very emotional about this. I tend to have big emotions, very high highs and very low lows. And I've taught myself to sort of ride the waves of those emotions. So if you haven't heard that sort of phrasing or metaphor, I'll explain that briefly. That it's a mindfulness practice of imagining those big emotions that come as a wave that comes, and you sort of surf the wave. You surf the wave or ride the wave of that emotion, trusting that it's going to come down. So that means you notice it, you're mindful of it, you're not ignoring it, you're not judging it, you're just accepting this is where I am, and you're trusting it'll go away, and you'll get back to more of kind of equal, still waters, like a calmer ground, right? So I'm very accustomed to doing that, and yesterday was the day I had to do that. I'll also mention that I think part of my emotionality this week has to do with hormones. And I bring that up because, as women, we have certain days, certain weeks, PMS, however you want to think about it. It's, we can have more intense emotions at different times throughout the month. And so I think often, I've been reflecting on this since yesterday, often we tend to either totally discount those emotions, like, oh, I'm just hormonal or whatever, and not give them any kind of weight or recognition. Or the other end of the spectrum, we can allow ourselves to sink so deeply into those emotions and just get lost in them. And so what I find, at least, is that somewhere in the middle is helpful. So again, being mindful of the emotion, noticing it and acknowledging it, but not getting like so just dragged down by it. Okay. So this week I've been kind of taking advantage of the facts that I've been more emotional, because that's giving me a chance to deal with these feelings that are there anyway. They've been there for a while, but because they're so heightened right now, I kind of have to deal with them. So I'm looking at that as a good thing. That's kind of my positive perspective on this, as these emotions are super heightened right now. That's a positive thing, because I'm forced to deal with them. And that's going to help me as I deal with the kind of lower level of these emotions. When the big wave goes down, then I will have processed through some of it. So just wanted to share that perspective. So yesterday, while I had a couple of telehealth sessions with individual clients I've been working with, and in between two sessions, I had about 45 minutes to eat lunch, and I was like feeling emotional, and like I hadn't really dealt with my emotions from earlier in the morning, because then I had to log on to a telehealth therapy session with a client. And I thought, okay, I have 45 minutes to eat lunch and deal with my feelings. I should probably do some artwork, practice what I preach, right? So I was like walking around. This is my studio / office. Walking around, like heating up part of my lunch in the microwave, eating another part of it, just like standing there cold, like just, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was walking around the messy room. I thought, well, I want to work on this size paper, this kind of medium-sized drawing paper. I was like, okay, that'll be good. I had some of it out, and I had the thought of, do I want to put 2 or 3 together to make it bigger? Like, because sometimes I work like that. And I couldn't even, it's like I had decision fatigue. Like I couldn't like even decide about that. So this is an example of just kind of go with what's there. So I reached down to pick up what I thought was maybe 1 piece of paper. There were 2 in that stack. So I said, okay, 2 pieces of paper. That's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to tape 2 up on the wall next to each other. I felt like standing up. And so it might be hard to see here, but so this is 2 of those pieces of paper, this size, taped up vertically on the wall next to each other. So I wanted to do 2 images. I didn't even know why. I was just like, that seems like a good size. I'll work on 2, kind of go back and forth between them. This was not, I want to emphasize, this was not a super logical, thought out decision of like, oh, I'm going to do this like, there's 2 sides of an emotion or 2 opposite emotions, or, this is my concept behind why I need 2 pieces of paper. I was not thinking about that. There were 2 in the stack and I picked them up and I said, okay. Then I held it horizontally and thought, no, I don't want that. I'm in the mood to do it vertically. I'm just going with my gut. And what I have learned through practicing this art process for quite a while is that those decisions go with your gut, go with, well, they don't even feel like decisions. Like I said, I had decision fatigue. Like, go with your gut, the first thing that comes to you. It's okay to be impulsive. I always say if there's any place that it's okay to be impulsive, it's within the creative process. Unless you're like misusing toxic materials, it's okay to be impulsive. Like who cares? Like, it didn't matter how many pieces of paper I chose. Like, it's my choice. If I had picked 3 and decided, no, I only want to do 1, I could just ignore the other 2 or take them down. Like we don't need to stress about the decisions. So when we go with our gut and we're impulsive, I find that that's where our subconscious and all these thoughts and feelings that we've been pressing down or just haven't been able to come up to the surface, haven't been freed up to come to the surface and be fully expressed, that's when they can come out, because we're not overthinking things. We're not staying in that cognitive brain, that thinking brain too much. We're just letting the emotions come out. So I typed up these 2 pieces of paper, taped them up, and I had some art materials out on the table. Sometimes when we have a lot of choices of art materials, again, decision fatigue, that can seem overwhelming. For me, I like to have kind of my basic art materials out where I can sort of see them. Because for me, most of the time, that will help me. Like, I'll just kind of look around and whatever sticks out to me, I'll grab it. So that, while sometimes it might seem overwhelming to see all of the materials out at once, I find for me, most of the time, that helps me not feel like I have to fret over the decision of what to pick. Because again, I just look, I impulsively pick, okay, this feels good. This feels right now. And so at first I thought I was going to use my big jumbo crayons that I love. And then I thought, no, I want a Sharpie. So I have 2 little jars of Sharpies. I picked up a black Sharpie. And so this first image, I'm going to show you a progression of where these drawings went. So this first image, I was just like, my body felt so weighed down. I had cried a lot earlier that morning. And like, I just felt these lines meant, it just mirrored how I felt in my body. So I just started doing that. And I think it helped that I was standing. So this was like at my height on the wall. And so that helped me kind of, sort of depict how it felt in my body, because it was like mirroring my body in a sense. So it's almost like this, a mirror of the emotions, not of my physical appearance, but a mirror of my emotions right across from me at my height. So I started drawing these lines down. And then something I want to point out is that I had this moment where I was like, this looks like hair. Am I going to draw a face in the middle of it? Like, is this a realistic portrait? And then I started to put lines across the middle, and I had a little judgmental thought. And this I want to use as an example to encourage you to just keep going with it and not let your thoughts limit you. So I thought for a second, because I was thinking of it as a figure at that point. And then I thought, oh, all these lines in the front, that looks like hair, and it kind of looks like Cousin It, like the character Cousin It from the Addams Family. And I was like, oh, I'm not trying to draw Cousin It. And so I almost changed it. Because of that little thought of like, no, that's not what I want to do. But I noticed that thought, acknowledged it, it's okay, and I kind of moved it to the side and kept going. Didn't worry about if it ended up looking like Cousin It, which it didn't in the end. So I just forgot about that and kept going. Had I paid attention to that little judgmental thought, I would have totally changed it and maybe derailed the process and not benefited emotionally, like not gotten the emotional insight that I did end up getting. So, okay, so I did these lines first, added the blue. Again, it's just what felt right. I wasn't thinking, what kind of lines demonstrate this sadness? It was just literally what I felt in my body. So I didn't do the full body scan in session 1. I didn't go through the formal process of like looking at the emotion word list and picking out the emotions because I didn't have time to do that. So this is an example of where you can follow that same basic practice if you're able to just be in tune with your body and how it's feeling without going through all of that. And I wasn't necessarily thinking I'm doing a scribble drawing. It was just what are some lines, shapes, and colors that can just demonstrate this feeling in my body and sort of get it out. And again, it was those long, weighed down lines, like falling lines. Then I added this other picture. I think as soon as I started drawing the circles on this, the green circles, I thought, it occurred to me like what these two drawings were and what I was doing with the two pieces of paper. And I realized that the first one was how I feel now, and the second one was how I want to feel. Because I started drawing a circle, and for me, I mean, you guys see, I like to draw in circles a lot. I have my Mandala Monday posts in the other free Facebook group. I think it's very centering. It feels whole and contained and controlled, and it just feels good to me. So it wasn't a surprise to me that I started making a circle for how I want to feel. And then just the red stood out to me. It was kind of the opposite of the cool colors on the left. And so started filling in with red. I'm not a person who likes red. Lately, I've been finding myself drawn to bright red Sharpies and other markers and red crayons, something about it right now. And so there's certain vibrancy to it that I guess I'm needing to express. And so when I looked at this, it occurred to me that that red was maybe anger, and I had a moment of feeling confused about that. And so I didn't do the full reflective writing with this, but I'm kind of doing it in my head as I'm going, because again, I've kind of internalized this process and I didn't have time to sit down and write. So I was thinking through it as I was sort of talking to the drawing, dialoguing with it as I was working. That's something that I mean, you can try that. I do recommend you kind of sitting down and taking the time to write, but this is just a glimpse into my process when I just had to do it quickly. And again, I've really internalized this whole process. So I was able to just think through it in the moment. And I'll probably journal about it more in the future. But so this red, I thought this is some anger, and that doesn't make sense to me because this is in my how I want to feel. But then I thought, well, it's or kind of the drawing told me it's contained, you know, it doesn't feel out of control and like weighing me down like the sadness. It's a lot of sadness in the how I feel now picture. But this anger showed up in how I want to feel. So then I thought, well, where's the anger in the how I feel now? It's got to be there, right? So I added some red and also some more solid kind of weight to it. In the picture on the right. And so I acknowledge there's some anger there too. It's not just the sadness I'm feeling weighed down. And again, where I had kind of a judgmental thought that could have derailed me as I was coloring in the red under the how I feel, I was being very controlled and neat with it. And I was really, really enjoying filling in those neat little lines with the red Sharpie. That was very satisfying to me. It was helping me feel calm. And but I had a moment of saying like, well, if this is anger, should it be so calm and I'm enjoying coloring in these little lines? And then I put that thought to the side. That didn't matter. What mattered was how I felt in the moment. So again, like the process is what's most important. I'm not trying to do this to achieve some end result of being able to communicate my emotions to someone else. This is just what feels good to me, what helps me express my emotions right now. So that felt good to me. So I just kept going with it. And then, yeah, I added in some more solid areas to kind of give some weight to the anger and the how I want to feel picture. Then I decided to get out some chalk. Probably part of that, like I thought about going with oil pastels, and I hadn't used chalk much recently, but probably because of having kind of the conversation in this group about the chalk, I thought, well, chalk, you know, I'll give that a try. And I kind of thought through remembering how it feels to use oil pastels, how it feels to use chalk, and I confirmed, yeah, the chalk is what I want to do. I think the first thing I did with this chalk was smear this sort of light flesh color on the how I want to feel picture. So I scribbled and then smeared it to where it's real solid looking. And then I added some blue and white to the how I feel picture. Excuse me. And I think so visually, my favorite one is the how I feel picture, the sad one. I thought that that turned out kind of beautiful. And I didn't really have to do much. Like really quickly, I really liked the texture and everything created, and I didn't really try hard at all. Like this was a quick drawing. So I really liked how that looked. I'm gonna see. So I got my pictures kind of out of order here, and I don't want to give away. Okay, well, we'll go on. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead. This might kind of give away something. Okay, here. Got them in the wrong order. So next I added some sort of orange to the redness on the how I want to feel picture. I see I'm almost at my time. We'll wrap up here soon. I had a text from my daughter's babysitter. Like, yeah, distractions. So I added some orange. This is important because so when I did that, I think it was kind of impulsive. I wasn't really thinking about it. And then I stepped back. And what immediately occurred to me was so part of my sort of visual language that I've developed in my artwork is that blue and orange are two very important colors for my identity. And that's something I'm sure I'll talk more about in the future. I know I will. But so here's my little pitiful color wheel. But this shows, if you're not familiar with the color wheel, blue and orange, this might look green on the screen, but that's blue, and this is orange. That's actually purple. Blue and orange are opposite on the color wheel. That means they're complementary colors. They always match each other and look good together and make each other look brighter. Also, red and green are complementary colors, like Christmas colors. Purple and yellow are complementary colors. So I've always liked this pairing of blue and orange, and through my art kind of discovery journey the past several years with developing this process that I do, something that came to light and that I've processed with a talk therapist is this blue and orange kind of identity. So typically blue colors for me in my artwork, I feel tend to represent the aspects of my identity that I feel comfortable sharing with others. Kind of things that are more on the surface, like the fact that I'm an artist, a mom, I like nature, I eat healthy, those kind of things. And the orange is the parts of me, the more vibrant, expressive parts that I don't feel as comfortable sharing. So I'm very introverted. I'm not very like expressive with my body. Like I get very passionate about things. Like there's a lot of really fiery kind of parts about my personality that that can hide below the surface a little, or they used to way more than they do now. And so through acknowledging those orange parts and letting them speak, I've gradually become kind of more integrated in my sense of self and in my comfortability expressing both these parts of me. So so when I looked at that, I thought, that's interesting, the blue and orange. So so that came out, but I wasn't quite sure what that meant as far as that showing up in this context, right? But I felt better having expressed this, and I felt like, okay, well, maybe the insight from this is that how I want to feel is I need more of those orange parts right now, need to feel more comfortable with that right now. So so that's where I was. Then I had to go log on to another telehealth session. And I didn't know what I was going to do with that client. It was a teenage girl. Then I thought, oh, well, we'll do the same activity, how I feel and how I want to feel. And so typically this client, she likes for me to work along with her. So there's could be like 20 minutes of silence if she's not in the mood to talk, where she's creating artwork on her side of the screen. And I'll also do the same art prompt along with her. And then we'll kind of show each other our work at the end. So I did the same thing again, and I sat down and thought, okay, well, how do I feel now? I wanted to do it honestly. So I didn't want to just replicate what I'd done before. I also didn't want to disclose to her all my sadness necessarily, but I did, why not take advantage of 20 minutes to make more artwork, for myself? I didn't have to explain it all to her. So how I feel now, I just started drawing this, again, trying not to think about it too much. And what I noticed was this looks a little bit like those other two, more integrated. So we had well, it's not there, it's somewhere else, but we had this, you can't see the orange on it as much, but the orange and the blue. And then it became more integrated into one circle. Again, the circle that is contained and controlled and feels whole and calm to me. And I wrote at the bottom, balanced, whole, content, ready to go, confident. Then I kind of chuckled to myself with the thought of, oh, then how I want to feel, like this was how I wanted to feel. This is even a step farther. Like I started with feeling like, oh, so dragged down and sad. Then how I want to feel was these other kind of parts of my personality that I wanted to bring out, this more vibrant side, like stronger side. And that resulted in feeling more integrated, both, aspects of my personality together. And there's a lot more coming to me now that needs to be processed about all of this. But, so I got to this point where everything felt more integrated. I felt really good. And then I was like, well, how do I want to feel? And I looked at the blank paper, and the first thought, I visualized it sort of spreading out. And I thought, I just want to feel more of this. So then I just drew it bigger, running off the page. And I wrote at the bottom, even more expansive. So I just wanted to feel more of that integrated feeling of all the different aspects of my personality. And whether this blue represents that sadness, or it just represents those other kind of the blue parts of my personality, whatever that is, just everything integrated together. And I want to feel the kind of freedom in that, the deep breath I can take, knowing that everything is balanced and it's not that big sadness weighing me down, or it's not just one part of who I am that's being represented. It's all integrated. And so I just wanted to share that process with you guys, because that was really interesting for me yesterday. It had been a while since I had done artwork that wasn't more of a smaller scribble in my sketchbook. I have not had much time lately to do that. And it's like my body needed it. My emotions needed it. And I knew, like, Jennifer, this is your lunch break, but gosh, like, you're needing this. You need to find some time to do art. And so, I mean, luckily I take my lunch break in my art studio. I know not everyone can do that, but I hope that you get something out of hearing my process with this. And what I want for you guys to do again is to think through how can you relate to this? Like, what's something going on for you this week that I say so much. What's something going on for you this week that's stressing you out, that's bringing you down? What is sort of the biggest uncomfortable or unwanted emotion that you're feeling right now? And how can you process that? And you can do this prompt, how I feel now and how I want to feel. I also wanted to give an example, though, of how you can do this a little quicker. And it doesn't, once you feel like you've got a good handle on how to do this impulsive sort of, scribble drawing, or just using line, shape, and color, I want you to be able to practice this in the moment when you feel like you need it. And not everyone identifies with being an artist. Not everybody thinks of art materials as like their go-to way to express their feelings. But if you're in this program, that's part of what you're open to, right? So I want this to be just one of the tools in your toolbox. It may be that you stop and assess this unwanted feeling that's most prominent for you this week, and you realize, like, what I need to do is go take a walk, or I need to call this friend, or whatever. It might be something different than the artwork, but this is just an example of how we can fit in this art making time as a way to work through those feelings. Because it turned out to not just be just expressing it, letting out of my body, which would have felt good enough just doing that blue drawing, but it turned into this whole progression of really, I mean, within like 30 minutes, I really got to a much, like, hugely better place with my feelings yesterday. And I felt a lot better about starting my day today and tackling these stressful things. So it's not that we're going to eliminate all stress and sadness and grief and pain from our life, but it's about knowing how to ride those waves again, surf the wave, and know how to process it, and hopefully learn something, and trust that the wave's going to go back down. We'll find some equilibrium again. All right. Thank you, ladies. I am at my time. I'm going to close this out, stop my screen share, and thank you so much. I will see you guys in the Facebook group and respond to this with comments, questions, and I'll also talk to you guys next week, of course.